31 years ago, on this date, Nelson Mandela was freed from prison. Hello, welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. Today we're going to talk about Nelson Mandela, who was a very large historical figure in South Africa. And I was about to make a comparison between him and civil rights or leaders, black leaders in the United States, but I wanted to wait to do that till we get further into the discussion, because it's interesting who he was and basically what he stood for. So he was born in South Africa, and he studied law at a time before, while apartheid, there was some social and definite racism, but before the South African government specifically encoded racial discrimination and the system of apartheid in law, which was about 1949, he was studying law. So in 1948, there was an election, and at this point, blacks weren't allowed to vote. And the government that came in decided that we're going to officially impose this system of apartheid, of discrimination within, we're going to specifically encode it into law. The interesting thing about the apartheid system in South Africa was there were four racial groups, four tiers. There was white, Asian, colored, and black. Black was the considered the lowest hierarchy, and they had the least rights of all. And as a result of having multiple groups subjected to apartheid, there were clearly several groups that were interested in ending it. The interesting thing was that, in considering that blacks were the most harshly treated, there were many black people who felt that they should not organize and unite with other groups and non-black groups to fight apartheid, that they needed to remain independent of those other groups. Nelson Mandela was originally one of these individuals. He was allied with groups that felt that, hey, no, we're going to do this on our own, and we're not going to partner with any other races. Whether we're not going to partner with Asians or the colored group to fight apartheid. We're going to remain the multiracial approach isn't for him. Originally, this is what he believed. Additionally, he was opposed to socialism and communism. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to compare him initially at the outset to other civil rights or black figures in America, because he evolved, he changed. And so while he originally had this approach, later on he changed. He decided that, one, he had his distrust of communism and socialism was diminished because he saw how much the communist groups were involved in, black liberation. Additionally, he decided to begin working with forming a multiracial coalition in ending apartheid, as well as committing to nonviolence. And now the interesting thing as to why he committed to nonviolence, it wasn't because he felt that was a moral or ethical thing. He committed to nonviolence because he felt it was a pragmatic thing. He realized that trying to engage in violence against the enemy they were facing would most likely not end well for the black and non-white population. Ultimately, he was arrested and sent to prison. 27 years, as I may have stated at the beginning. 27 years he spent inside of prison. And just thinking about that, like, that sounds, and quite frankly, it sounds that way because it's such a significant time, but it sounds like the end. Like, that's the end of the story. He was a freedom fighter. He was a leading figure. He had a lot of people who looked up to him, who followed him, who believed in him. And then he was arrested and sent to prison for 27 years, the end. And that's just like the natural inclination is to think, okay, it's over. That's how his story ends. But that's not how his story ends. Because after 27 years, he gets out of prison and he continues to fight. And he continues to strive. I think that's a better term, because at this point, he's a much older individual. His approach has been tempered. And one of the things he was very interested in doing was making sure that South Africa could move forward from the horrors it had experienced in years prior. And there's some people who today and even at the time, and even today and then, and here in the United States, there in South Africa, there's some people who think that is not and was not the right approach. And I like having that discussion, and I think we must be willing to have that discussion in terms of when to say, move on, and when to say there needs to be accountability. Because if you take a look at it, there isn't a lot of times when such horrors or such atrocities are committed against non-black people. It's usually not the time when you hear, well, yeah, we should move on, we should let that just go. It's usually there's like, no, there needs to be some price paid, there needs to be accountability, and this can't go unpunished. And so that's why I understand a lot of people feeling that his approach of reconciliation was not a good one. But I understand that, number one, after 27 years, like, you've got to be tired. You've got to be like, is there a way to heal? So I understand where he was coming from. And I also understand where some people feel maybe that was why he at that moment, at that point in time, shouldn't have been the one to lead the charge, because of all he had been through. Some people may have been concerned that he had been defeated. But I still think that regardless of whether or not you think his approach was right, what he managed to accomplish and to still be alive, to survive all of those years, and then to get out and then to begin anew, of trying to save your country. That was significant, and he negotiated a peace in South Africa, and definitely the ultimate achievement, the culmination of his life was being elected president of South Africa. Yes, he was the first black president of South Africa. And there's something I marvel at, because, so remember, the apartheid system in South Africa lasted until at least 1990, right? Because that's when he was released from prison. And that's when it began, the dismantlement of the apartheid system really began. So that's within my lifetime. Within my lifetime, South Africa had a legally encoded system of racial oppression. That's after the United States. So after the United States had recovered, had put the Civil Rights Act of 64 in, had officially gotten rid of racial discrimination, officially. I mean, granted, obviously we know that you can't legislate morality, you can't legislate people's opinions, but to have the actual laws still standing within my lifetime and within many of our lifetimes. So yeah, if you're 31 or older, like, it was within your lifetime that this system of legally enforced racism was in existence. So when you take a look at, like, when Barack Obama was elected to the, as president of the United States, I remember hearing, news media say, only in America could this happen. Could we elect, and I'm like, no, like, America, like, despite legally ending racism and racial discrimination, the legal enforcement of racial discrimination, South Africa still elected a black president before you. And that's amazing. Like, within a blink of its eye, they ended the legal system of racial segregation and elected a black president. So that was like, that in itself is such a significant accomplishment by him. And the fact that he went through so much change. He was there at the beginning before the official enforcement and legalization of apartheid. He was there. He fought against it for years. Went to prison. Survived throughout 27 years of imprisonment. And, like, it's hard to understand what that means if you've never been through that, and, like, to survive that long and then to still come out. He still had the drive to fight, for equality, for justice, and then he was elected president. So from prison to president, like, that is a very inspirational, that's an inspirational path. And it's one of the reasons why I really like the story. I really like his story, and why every February 11th, I'm glad that I get the opportunity to talk about Nelson Mandela. And it's also why I think there's so many, and why I think it's an important part of a Black history curriculum, because especially right now, there's even as I look at social media today, I'm seeing just division between what people are referring to as foundational Black Americans and, African. It's like, stop it. Like, there's so much shared pain, so much shared struggle, that we should be helping each other move past, helping each other overcome this trauma that we've experienced. And by understanding and realizing, like, wow. So, like, blacks in America could say to, blacks in South Africa, to blacks from Nigeria, Ghana, where we can just look at each other and be like, wow. So that's what you went through. And we can understand and empathize with each other in a way other people may not be able to empathize, because we feel it. We've felt it, we've seen it, and we've experienced it. And if we can't find each other's humanity, I'm pained about what that means for a future. Like, do we have a future if we can't look at each other and help each other heal from the trauma we've all experienced? It worries me. But understanding that there can be healing, and looking at somebody like a Nelson Mandela who went through hell, came back and led a nation. Like, that's right there. This is one of the stories that should really help inspire us to be better, to keep fighting. As always, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, comment below. What do you hey, what stories about Nelson Mandela do you find personally inspirational? Any speeches, any quotes from him? Were you there watching TV as he was released from prison? It was like, were you watching it live as it was happening? These are the kind of things yeah, comment below. And thank you for watching this episode of Escaping the Echo Chamber, and I'll see you next time.